I am Chester Dunham, and this is the Dunham Report, a marketplace of ideas of information for labor, civil rights, and other issues of social justice. I am Dunham, and I'm the host of the show, and my co-host who was absent at the time, as you all know him, and that's Wesley Crenshaw. Tonight we have I have a dynamite guest with me tonight, and her name, if I don't mess it up, is Julia Pearce. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And this young lady is going to have a lot of valuable information for you all, the viewing audience, that we will be talking about tonight. One of the main things that we're going to be talking about is the upcoming celebration of the birthday of Dr. King, and people will be talking about that throughout the United States. And we're going to be talking about some of that right here in the city of Savannah. As you know, the Martin Luther King Observance Day in the city of Savannah, it might be moving towards being the #1 largest event in the whole United States dealing with Dr. King. If we're not #1, we're #2, maybe behind Atlanta, but we are right there. And what we are doing, the young lady who was with us tonight, we are adding on other areas, territories and things within our county wise, that we got some of the other ones. I mean, moving and bringing the whole, as you know, in the past, we got places like Pooler, Effingham, and a lot of other places, because I had participated in some of those events that they have their celebration there. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk later about what you're going to be talking about, that we're going to be adding on some other location here within our neck of the woods, as I want to say it. But, and we're really going to talk about the history and some things about Dr. King. And we also will talk about, and I keep saying this all the time, it's so much more stuff that we need to be doing centered around his birthday. Because if he was alive today, these are the type of things that we need to be talking about, that he would really be involved with and in these type of situations and these type of things. So again, Juliet, it's a pleasure to have you on the show with us tonight, or with me tonight, because Crenshaw is not here. But if you want to just take a minute or two and we don't want to get into nothing yet but anyway, to tell the viewing audience who you are and something about yourself, and then we'll come back and we're going to be talking about all these other great things.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Chester. I am just very, very pleased to be here. Very proud to be here. Thank you very much for giving me the time. My name is Julia Pearce. I live on Tybee Island. I've lived there for the past 22 years. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We've raised our children there on Tybee, and they're all off and grown now. 7 years ago, I came together with me and a couple other people, and we decided that we really wanted to have Dr. King's legacy there on Tybee as well. We often forget that Tybee Island is Savannah Beach. It's the beach of Savannah. Mm-hmm. And Dr. King's legacy is worldwide, okay, and it certainly is large enough to be extended to Savannah Beach. And so, like I said, 7 years ago we came together, and we're getting ready to have our 6th parade and human rights celebration. And we're excited about it, and we're just proud and happy to be able to extend it and let everyone know that it's easy to forget, because of socioeconomic situations, that Tybee is Savannah Beach. It's and that's by design that we're supposed to forget that. So it's important that we don't forget it. It's important that we know that it was all Chatham County, and Dr. King is our native son, and we embrace the celebration in Savannah. We're very excited about the fact that in Savannah, like you said, it's a huge celebration, and with more than just one day.
Now you're talking.
Yes, much
right.
more than just one day. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're talking about.
I remember, like I was, when they first started the event, I was involved in parades and other type of things during that period of time. But it wasn't too long before I got with Reverend Mitchell and some other things, and then really got involved in the leadership portion of putting all the stuff together. Worked with him all of that period of time. Dr. King, Mitchell used to go all out to try to bring in good speakers for the event sometime, for the main activities or the main program. And he bring them in from different places. He had, I know he had Jesse Jackson. He had Jesse here once or twice. But the one that I witnessed, that I enjoyed, and still today, I have his speech written down in my file, and that was Dr. Morse. And he had
the preacher's preacher.
That is correct. Now, he went to school at Morehouse with Dr. King. They attend classes together. And he was from Tripp County, as he called it, Georgia. And Mr. Law, a few years ago when he was living, he had introduced me at the Ralph Gilbert Museum to Dr. Morse. And so I said to WW, I said, well, you way behind. I said, I done met Dr. Morse many times in this country. And Dr. Morse said, and I was telling him about that, and Dr. Morse said, Dunham, you mean to tell me you got that speech that I did when I was here? I said, yeah. He said, you still? I said, sure. He said, great, goodness, I don't have it. He said, I should have wanted it if you could. So I said, sure, you can get it. So he created some other stuff, and give it, and then I give him the speech. But there was so much portion in that speech. That was the most stern speech. That, and he sounded just like King in that speech. But one of the main part, he was saying in his speech, and he was telling the viewing audience and the people who were there when he was speaking, and he was saying a portion of that speech, he said, I remember that night. In other words, he was saying about Dr. King, who was deceased, but he was saying that he remembered that night in your father's living room. He said, when the people was trying to persuade you not to go back to Alabama because of the danger there. And he said, Dr. King said, I stood on my feet. And he said, I would rather spend 10 years in jail than turn my back on the people who had entrusted me with leadership now. Boy, then he went on, but that was a masterpiece of a speech, and I still have it. And all of this kind of thing, because I use a portion of it sometimes to different events or different things that I use. But also, I had the opportunity, and I usually go to these things too, and that is the Emancipation Proclamation celebration. And I think Reverend Brown started this many years ago. And this function it's 156 years old, I think it is. That's what they were celebrating from the time Lincoln's speech and January 1, 1863 is when Lincoln wrote, or he wrote it before then, but when he read the Emancipation Proclamation and what it meant and all of these sort of things. But see, people got to understand, if you study history, Lincoln was a swell president or person during that period of time. But even with his Emancipation Proclamation, it was written way, way ahead of our celebration, when he really had this thing here in Savannah, when he implemented and really pushed for the rebel state to free slaves. This thing was written long ago, before that. But it was that wind, that force behind people to make you do things. And it was Frederick Douglass who pushed Lincoln to come on out and do the speech now. You got, holding back, and this sort of thing. So it was, at that time, with Abraham Lincoln and slaves and all of this period of time, it was that force of Frederick Douglass pushing Lincoln to move forward and doing things. The same thing happened with President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And with so many things that happened during the labor force during that time, that when blacks were mistreated so badly during that period of time. But it was a person behind Roosevelt, and Roosevelt had made the statement that you're gonna have to make me do it. It was A. Philip Randolph who pushed Roosevelt into the New Deal and all of these other kind of things, and to end discrimination within war plants and things. It was making war equipments and all of these things during that period of time. Roosevelt eventually signed that executive order, but it was Randolph who pressured him into signing that executive order. And it wasn't even the president of the NAACP, who was Walter White during that time, but it wasn't White. It was A. Philip Randolph. Randolph took Walter White with him to meet with Roosevelt and got his support so far as doing things, but it was Randolph who pressured Roosevelt into signing that executive order, which is to ban discrimination in the war industry and all of this sort of thing. So that's the key thing. And now, in our time dealing with Dr. King, again, it was King came on the scene. It was just like Randolph passing the torch on to Dr. King, but it was King who came on the scene and pushed
Johnson. Kennedy. All right. First, when, right.
And then he was assassinated.
Yeah.
Johnson picked it up, and it was King again, pushed and pressured Johnson, which another person that one of the great speeches that people need to listen to if you have never heard it, and that was LBJ speech dealing with Voting Rights Act. All of these things, but it was always that force of person, of individual. Things like a lot of things just don't happen just bam and it happens. Right. So it's pressure.
It's pressure. And you mentioned that because right now I'm reading about Frederick Douglass. This David Blight has written a fantastic book about Frederick Douglass, and I recommend. Anyway, it came out in November 2018, and much of the research for this book has been done here in Savannah. There's a gentleman in Savannah by the name of Walter Evans. And Walter Evans had some personal papers in his repertoire. He's a gentleman who collects African art. He's known for collecting African art. But also he's been collecting papers, personal papers, antique papers. And so when this gentleman by the name of David Blight wanted to write about Frederick Douglass, he came to, the gentleman's name was Walter O. Evans. And in the book, the author gives credit to Walter O. Evans, Savannah man here, and he came out of Savannah, also an Atlanta man. And he talks about what you just said, about how influential Douglass was with approaching Lincoln, and how Douglass went all over the country and outside the country with abolitionists, talking about,
Right, he was that abolition.
oh, how powerful that was.
That's right.
He was a speaker, he was a preacher,
That's right.
you know, and you're right. Whatever God gives us, we're supposed to use it for social justice, to make things right. That's what he gives it to us for.
That's right.
You know, so
That is correct.
that's why
You're so right. I'm gonna then go back to this program Sunday. Then we're gonna move forward
Please.
with King and everything. And Sunday I just sit there and I said, you know, I'll be sometime listening to a speech. I said, I don't know this guy here. I don't know whether he's gonna be, you know, what kind of speaker he's gonna be.
Sure.
But he started and he said that. And I'd see in the Savannah Morning News, they had a big write-up. I don't know whether you look at it, but today they had a heck of a write-up. I couldn't believe it. And they said, because they started out by saying on Tuesday, on January 2nd, the Emancipation Proclamation celebration. And then they say, Speaker told the audience to think positive. The guest speaker, the Reverend Benjamin Penn Collins, told the 156 Emancipation Proclamation celebration audience at the Greater Emmanuel Tabernacle on Stars Avenue, I think it was. He told the blacks to recognize their power. This is what he said. In the midst of an unwarranted, in other words, he's talking about the force that we are facing in the city and the nation. He said something is happening and we must try hard to overcome what is going on in our country. He said, he went on to say that Satan had really tried hard to destroy the black race. Yet we have preserved, and we have failed to recognize, but we have failed to recognize the power we have. If we could just stand together. And then he went on with a whole lot of other things, and then he talked about the Lincoln celebration and the cause and the reason why we were there. But throughout the program, he was hitting home the point of so much stuff that need to happen, and we need to get involved. And he didn't hid anything, because he just said, especially as blacks, that is so much stuff that we need to get involved in and do. And he went on and talked about his speech, throughout his speech, talking about the event and slavery during that time, and all of these things. We had Al Scott. He was a guest just to speak, to say a few words. We had the mayor said a couple of things. He was fair, one of the things he said. But Al, county commissioner chair, Al do a lot of, history research and stuff.
Sure.
So he came up and talked about the history of after Lincoln Emancipation Proclamation, and he talked about Georgia being the second state to Mississippi that he hung more blacks in the state of Georgia than any other state except Mississippi. And then he went on talking about some other things that happened in the state of Georgia, that, our state, And so these things we have to talk about. And we have to talk about it to the youth and to the young folks and this and that, because they might think that everything is just peaches and cream and this and that, and it isn't. Let's talk about what gives you the zeal and the focus, the idea and everything else to come up with. In other words, you lived on Tybee and did all these things, but you saw the need. And how did you come about deciding to extend and have this event on Tybee?
Well, it came about because I am a member of the Episcopal Church on Tybee. And the Episcopal Church on Tybee, for years, have gone into Savannah to be with the other. There's an Episcopal Church on Martin Luther King, which is St. Matthew's. St. Matthew's Episcopal Church is on Martin Luther King, and we often would go in to St. Matthew's on parade day. It was basically just a parade day that we would go in, ride in the parade, and everything was lovely. They would feed us. It was always wonderful. We enjoyed it. And what had happened was our group was getting larger, and somebody said, well, why don't we celebrate Dr. King here too? And we said, well, the Savannah has such a wonderful, huge parade that maybe we shouldn't have a parade out here too. And one of the people at the church said, well, you know, Dr. King is big enough to have a parade here at Savannah Beach. We can't parade at Savannah Beach. People who've been living on Tybee for a while, our house deed doesn't say Tybee. Our house deed says Savannah Beach, because that's what it is. It's the beach of Savannah. They changed it to Tybee years ago. I guess before we got our house, they changed it. You know, after they got we got ours in 74, and in 74 it was Savannah Beach. That's what it was. It was Savannah Beach. They had changed it to Tybee. What's interesting is the adjacent island to Tybee is, they call it Whitmarsh. But the same time that they added, you know, they changed Savannah Beach to Tybee, at the same time they put the E. You see, it used to be Whitmarsh, you know, and it didn't have an E.
Okay.
But they put the E in. They put the E in. They still call it Whitmarsh, but they put the E in to make it say White Marsh. It's because if you look at it right now today, it reads White Marsh.
Oh, okay.
Then that's what it is. It's White Marsh. And the reason they put that E in there, that was important to them to change Tybee to Tybee, you know, and to put that E there to make it. They still call it Whitmarsh, but you can read it and say that it says White Marsh. The point I want to make is people get the idea that we're separate and we're different. And we're really not. We're part of Chatham County. We are the beach of Savannah. So we wanted, to answer your question, what we wanted to do is be more inclusive, to let everyone know that we're a part of the whole, that we're not alienated from the whole. And so we came together, and this was in 2013, we came together, talked to the city. The city was said wonderful, you know, to the city's credit, the city said wonderful, be a great idea. Jason Bilterman is our mayor, and he's been supportive all along. And so that's what we do. We have a parade, and not only do we have a parade, we also have a human rights celebration. And within that human rights celebration, our very first Grand Marshal and our human rights leader was Edna Jackson, was one of the mayors of Savannah. And after that was Otis Johnson. He came out and wonderful speaker. So what we're trying to understand is that we need more diversity out on our island. We need more inclusiveness on our island. And so in order to do that, the best way to do that is for us to recognize Dr. King, because this is a national celebration.
Well, do you know that when Oberthoff came to Georgia when the king of George, I think it was George the second, named Georgia after King George. They named it before Overthorpe and the other trustees got here, because England had the power to do certain things they wanted to do.
Sure.
But when Overthorpe got here, he came through Savannah Beach, up Savannah River, and he didn't like Tybee. He didn't like the marshland. He didn't like none of that. So he came all the way up the river to Tybee. I mean, not to Tybee, to
Yamacraw.
And they call it Blue River or something. But anyway, that's where they settled at with the Tomichichi and the Indians. But almost 100 years later, when the British came, the British liked Tybee, and that's where they settled. They set up on Tybee, that area. Then they fought and come on up this way and fought war and this sort of thing. So it's but like you said, it's bringing it all together, and it should be. So I'm glad that y'all are doing this and you are involved with this thing, because that's what Dr. King was. And another thing you just mentioned a few minutes ago about the church. Do you know that that was one of the key churches at one time when Sherman got here?
The Episcopal Church. Yes.
In other words, it was five, I think it was 4 or 5 churches. And that was in 1864, the last of 63 and the first of 64, when Sherman got to Savannah and his march to the sea. And it was, I think it was 4 or 5 churches. The Episcopal Church was not named that at that present time, but it's still that congregation.
Right. Anglican.
History from that, right? That was one of the churches.
Sure.
And the other different churches that they had during that period of time. Because I had it was something like, I think it was 5 churches in this area when Sherman got here. And do you know anything about the meeting that took place here in Savannah?
40 Acres and a Mule meeting?
That's right.
Yes. Well, they call it, it was Field Order 15. Field Order 15.
On the registered book.
Yes.
Field Order 15. And it was a group of ministers at that meeting.
Yes.
What about William Stassen? You know anything about him?
I read some about William Stassen, and there was a movie about this 40 Acres and a Mule that I saw it at the public library.
Yeah, it is one that they was doing, but I'm gonna do one even better than the one they do. I'm working on some information now, and I'm gonna capture the whole event. They just went part of the way, but I'm capturing the whole thing from bringing Sherman from Kennesaw there in Tennessee and all the way to the sea and beyond. And thing that took place during that time. But they dramatize a lot and talk a great deal about Sherman. But Sherman, in a sense, because he was the head general and all these things, but it was the Secretary of War who was William Stassen, who was an abolitioner, and who was the Secretary of War, who was even over Sherman. And Lincoln taught him to come into Savannah to meet with Sherman, to have this meeting to implement now his Emancipation Proclamation. And those kind of things happened during that period of time.
Right.
But getting back to Dr. King, and a lot of people don't realize you might know because you read and you study history and study a lot of things, but because when Dr. King first hit the scene, if he didn't follow certain individual or groups, we wouldn't have never known him like the things that he did. We would have probably known him as being this great orator, speaker, and other things, and he might have been living today. Because, and that's a fact, he might have been living.
That's right.
But he ventured out with the how he got involved with the Rosa Parks situation, and it was just one of those incidents because, in a sense, it just wasn't Rosa Parks. Howard, do you know the history, a whole lot of history that Howard King really got started?
No, please share. Go share some of that. When you mention Rosa Parks, what pops into my mind is that there's some understanding that the first person on that bus that refused to give up their seat happened to be a teenage pregnant woman. That she refused. She was the first one to refuse. But they felt that she was not the best face to be for the civil rights. That she wasn't the best, because they needed to put, so they had someone like Rosa Parks, who was a part of the movement already, I'm
glad to hear you say that because you were so on point because of the young lady, and it might have been more that we didn't know about that might have didn't give this, one of those type, they didn't rally behind them because Rosa Parks herself got off that bus a couple of times and just refused to ride. She just got off.
Sure.
But this particular day, she just said, no, I ain't getting off. Right. I'm not giving up myself. Right. But just like you say, she was a part of the movement. She was the secretary of the local NAACP chapter. She was the president of the NAACP chapter was a Pullman porter whose name was Mr. What his name was, God. I bogged down with his name. But he was he was the president, and he was a Pullman porter. Nixon, E.D. Nixon. He was a Pullman porter working under the leadership of Randolph. And what happened is that they in Alabama, they in Montgomery, and Dr. King was servicing that church. He had just got there, he was still just coming from Boston, school there, working at helping his father in the church in Atlanta. And he came there and he was servicing the church. And he wasn't there too long before they asked him if he would take the leadership or be the pastor of that church. E.D. Nixon being the chairman of the deacon board. Now I know about these things because E.D. Nixon have sit down and told me all these things. So this is a fact.
Right.
And he said that so when Rosa Parks got in jail, it was during that same period of time. It was E.D. Nixon who, the Women's Auxiliary, who Rosa Parks was a part of, called, when she got put in jail, they called Mr. Nixon and said, Ms. Parks is in jail and you got to go and get her out. And then that's when he went down to the jail and this started, and all the activities started around that. Right. Because just like you said, they put their forces behind her.
Yes.
So this is the time for us to move forward and do some things.
Yes.
And that's when they had these meetings. Dr. King had just got there. He might have didn't even know Ms. Parks. But they had asked him to be involved.
Sure.
And he told Mr. Nixon that he was young and he just got there and he don't think that he knew enough about it and this and that. So in a sense, he said, I don't know. So Nixon went on and got in touch with another 20 ministers on that square or whatever. and they was going to set up a meeting, and he came back to Dr. King and said, Dr. King said, I'd asked you earlier about if you would join us in this meeting, and I'm coming back to find out if you made up your mind yet, you told you had to think about it. And he said that he thought about it and he would join them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he got started in the
Beautiful. Yes, beautiful.
Exactly how he got started in the movement. And history goes on from there with all the other things. But he got involved through the labor movement and all these other kind of things, how he really stretched out and got involved that way. And they support his organization and other kind of things. And that's where the movement started, and that's what started with him.
Right. That's right. That's what he was doing, labor, when he was assassinated.
That is correct.
That's right.
He went to, like you said,
Garbage men.
the garbage workers,
In
sanitation
Memphis.
workers in the thing. That's right.
Uh-huh.
And he had just left, like you said, Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
With all that struggle in Birmingham,
Yes.
fighting the cause and fighting for all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I had the chance to talk to, was young, but I still had a chance to, because I talk to people. And I had a chance to talk to, what's his name was, he's deceased, died not too long ago. What's his name? That preacher in Montgomery. He was with Dr. King, but he was the top minister in Montgomery. I mean, in Birmingham during that time.
Yeah, okay.
What is kind of tall, big guy. He was in the movement, but Dr. King, he was one of the key.
Wow.
And he was the lead person, because he the one that I think sent for Dr. King to come to Birmingham to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And he came there and he helped them. And that's, and he did. So then he was involved in the movement ever since. The March on Washington. You know a great deal about the 63 March on Washington.
Just was things I read about it, and we're so, just think if those things had not taken place, how those things moved us forward, the power of those things. Speaking of moving us forward, I guess this spring I went to Montgomery. We went to the lynching museum in Montgomery. It is moving. It's really moving. I'm trying to think, where were we? We had gone to a conference, and we left the conference, and then we went over to the lynching museum. And if anyone gets a chance to go, they should go, because it's very moving. It's very moving.
And that was in Montgomery?
I'm thinking I want to say Montgomery. We went there. We drove. I wasn't the one driving when we went. But it was.
But what about Birmingham? You've been to the museum in Birmingham?
Birmingham, but I haven't been in the one in Birmingham. This was in Montgomery.
Was one of the key movement. I missed the one you're talking about, because I helped shape the Civil Rights Museum here in Savannah.
Yeah.
And so through Mr. Lott, WW had asked me if I would take the leadership role in dealing with bylaws and things with museums and what have you. So I traveled a great deal. I went to a lot of museums, in the high-powered museums in different locations, and putting hours together. And I had a chance to go to Montgomery. Birmingham. Birmingham is the one that Freedom Rider bus is in there, that's all gutted up and burned and stuff. They have that sitting in there now, and that's right across the street from the church.
The church.
Where the kids
6th
got
Street.
bombed. Yeah,
Bombed.
right across the street. And but it's just like you say, to see all of those things and witness all of those things in the movement and all those things, it is it's something. And that's the type of thing that we are talking now about, and we need to go back to. Let's talk about Savannah in the museum and the celebration and the day, and what you think that we need to move and increase and do some additional things in what we are doing. Especially we need to me, that large crowd that we have on parade day. We need to make sure that, and especially youth, to get them involved so much more in activities and other type of things that will benefit the future and other kind of things. Things that you can talk about, that what Dr. King stood for, what he meant, and all of these kind of things, how he, like you say, give up his life and all of these kind of things, helping the cause. So we don't just need to get out there with a situation and celebrate. They need to understand that it took something for us to make his day a holiday. Activities have to take place around the United States, in every state, in order to get the support.
Right.
Because when you start talking about making a state a holiday, and when you start talking about the money it costs, all these different jobs and different things that people have to, now this is a holiday and all this kind of, it's a lot of things.
It's a lot.
So you had to have a lot of togetherness and a lot of people involved. So we need to even tell them, it just ain't nothing this overnight. We're going to do that, it's going to be a holiday.
Sure.
No.
Sure, it's a struggle.
I'm struggling,
Yes.
I'm telling you. And you had a lot of states that
Refuse to recognize it.
oh, definitely so. And they need to understand and know the states that took the lead states, and the one that followed, and then the last one to join, and
Yes.
need to know elected officials and things during that period of time, name of them and all these kind of things. That's history. You need to know those things.
It's very important.
Very important.
Very important. You're right.
They can have some kind of quiz day and some kind of thing with some of that information, and in a sense, not just giving them money, but doing some other constructive things for ones who getting high schools and a lot of other things like that. It's a whole lot of things that we need to improve on and do different. These are some of the things I was telling Reverend Mitchell about before he died, and he said we're going to sit down and he wanted me to sit down and get with him and some other people and come up with some ideas and things like that.
Right.
He puts a lot of, I don't say too much, a lot of people don't know about certain things that I've been involved with and still involved with movement and different things. I do a whole lot of things. And like you said, you read and get that information and you study it. But it just don't come to you overnight.
No.
And they sure ain't gonna teach it to you in some of these schools, because some of them don't know themselves. So, it's hard.
Right.
Like you just said a few minutes ago with this book dealing with Douglas and the writer and all of these kind of things.
Right. Well, yeah. And we as parents, it's important for us to make sure our children understand the history. It's our job to make sure they understand our history. Just like I feel like it's our job to religiously educate our children, it's also our job to culturally educate our children.
You're right. Just like you're dead right.
It's
I agree.
crucial. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. One of the things that we do with our movement that we have there at Tybee is we do a countywide essay contest. And this countywide essay contest, last year we had over 150 entries from Chatham County. Very bright young people. We do middle school and high school. And we ask them some crucial questions about the movement. Let them do their research and find out the answers to these questions, and then compile it into a written document. And we have educators and people in the struggle, and they read those essays, judges, and after we judge it, and then we come together. We had the imam who's no longer with us. This imam was Majid Fahim Ali, the imam there at 34th Street.
Swell guy.
Yes, swell, just a fine man.
Yeah,
And he really embraced what we were trying to do out there on Tybee. And he help us bring in more young people so that we can get the word out. But you're right. Our young people need to know our history, and it's our job to make sure they know it.
The high school on Tybee, I'm trying to think of this guy. the principal of one of the school out there. Do you know him? I'm trying to think of his name.
Well, Tybee has no high school. Tybee has an elementary school, but they built a new high school on the island. The island has a high school called Islands High School.
That's the one I'm talking
Yeah, it's newly built. I say newly, about 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
The Islands High School is.
Right.
Yeah,
You know that guy, the principal over there?
I don't know the principal of Islands High. I couldn't tell you the principal's name of Islands High. I'm sorry, I couldn't. But the mayor of Tybee teaches at Johnson High School.
Sure no.
Been teaching at Johnson High School over 10 years. The mayor of Tybee teaches at Johnson High. Teaches in the IB program. He's a coordinator of the International Baccalaureate program. Very, very good school. And a very good program.
I'll meet him because somebody told me long ago they was trying to get me to, and I never met him, but they were trying to get me to call him to have him on my show about something I was talking about. I think it was out there dealing with Orange Crush and some other things out there. They wanted me to. Some of the guys who work on the island, white people, was trying to get me to get in touch with him and do a show with him.
But wouldn't be a bad idea at all. It would be because in every April that's when they have the Orange Crush comes out in April, and it's always it's always cantankerous. But I think it has to do with the fact that the island it's not used to having a large influx of black people, and when they see a large influx of black people, they get very uncomfortable.
Yeah, the person, forget his name. I got it. But anyway, he got I don't know if he's still over. He should be, but his position is that I think he is over. He got a job with the Tybee group as being. He works for the island or the government, which will be the mayor and all of them and all those people. But anyway, he is kind of like over activities of everything that goes on the island, but different activities and groups and this and that. Because I know when a few years ago, we had the April Randolph, we had our national convention here, and we used that facility out there for one event. And so that's when I went out there with the president and some other group. I met them out there because we was also making an arrangement to have an activities there during the time we were there when the function was happening in Savannah. And when I got there, I got there a little after some of the other ones got there. So it was a committee, maybe about 10 or 15 people from, up north, different places. And so when I got there, this guy who was over the activities, making the arrangement and all these kind of things, he was the head person on the island doing some things. And as soon as I got up there, he knew me. I didn't know him, but he knew me. So then he said, Thomas, I'm glad to see you. So I remember when we started talking, and he was telling me, and we got involved in conversation after, and he was telling me that, another one telling me that he listened to my show. And he said, but I know you must have done them so well. And he said that, the situation here, he said, because I know, he said, I got a record of all the different activities and groups that come in here on the island. Predominant white groups, black groups, schools, college, bam, you name it, I got the record. And he said, Tybee, the Orange Crust guys, they write about them more than anybody else, and they do less construction, less activity so far. They're one of the most honorary group that we have coming on the island. But you see it in the papers, you will see some other kind of negative type of thing.
Negative. It's always
Versus that,
negative.
like you say, yeah.
It's always negative.
That's what-
And most of those young people that come out, the majority of those young people are fine, wonderful, well behaved, great, But the island is a party place. That's what people do. They go out and they party. That's what they do on the
Yeah,
island.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
That's what they do.
So let's go back to the date, the time, and all of this kind of stuff. I know you got some stuff there.
Right. Okay.
Talk about that.
Let's talk about that. All right. Well, like I said, thank you for giving me an audience to tell you about Tybee's. It's our 6th annual parade and human rights program.
Okay.
Our Grand Marshal is Dr. Ann Levette, Superintendent of Chatham County Public Schools.
That's my girl.
She is a dynamo. She accepted right away. She's very, very happy about being our Grand Marshal, and we're so happy to have her.
Mm-hmm.
And in her honor, our program is basically going to have a lot of young people. A lot of young people. We have the young lady, her name is Camilla Barr, and she's from Islands High School, and she won first place in our essay contest in 2018. So she's going to speak. We also have a young man by the name of Sean Bullock, and he is a middle school person from STEM Academy. And STEM, stands for Science and Technology, Engineering, and Math.
Okay.
And he's a young man going far, and he's going to be there also. He's going to speak.
Okay.
And so we're just encouraging everyone to come out. It's going to be the 12th of January the 12th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What we do is we start at 14th Street parking lot there on Tybee, which is the pier, which is a Chatham County pier. The pier is named Walter Parker, but it's the Chatham County pier. It's called Walter Parkham Chatty County Pier. It's on 14th Street. We're going to come down 14th Street and just go 10 blocks. Very short parade. We ask anyone who wants to come and be in the parade. We're asking organizations, nonprofits, businesses, churches, come and be in the parade. And we go 10 short blocks. We go to the YMCA complex, which is the Old School. On Tybee, it's called the Old School because during desegregation, the school could not be desegregated sufficiently, and so it became the Old School because the school had to be closed. Tybee now has the TEMA, which is it stands for Tybee Island Maritime Academy, which is a charter school, which is there on Tybee. So we're going to have the parade, which is January the 12th. Right after the parade, we have the Human Rights Program. Dr. Levette is going to be our keynote speaker in the Human Rights Program, and the young people are going to read their essays. People are going to be in the parade. We're going to have Sheriff Wilshire. He's a member, and he's going to be in our parade. He's there every year. It's always a pleasure having him there.
He's a nice guy.
Yes, he's just a wonderful, wonderful guy.
Yeah.
He'll be there. United Way, Hands on Savannah, they're there, and they're sponsoring one of the awards that we're going to be giving to Dr. Levette. And also we have a humanitarian award that we give out each year. And this year our humanitarian award is going to a Tybee resident. And his name is James Eldo Hertz. And Mr. Hertz has for years owned the only affordable hotel long-term housing on Tybee. Long-term housing. You understand, on Tybee now, most of our housing on Tybee has gone to short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Short-term rentals is most of the housing on Tybee right now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you have to understand that on Tybee, in season, a person can get $1,300 a week for their house. In season, $1,300 a week. So people have, because of the cost of to live on the island, they have sought ways to stay on the island, and one of the ways they stay is to rent out their homes during season. But what that does is for workers, people who work in the bars and in the restaurants and at the nursing homes, people who work out there can't afford to live there. But there's a gentleman by the name of Mr. Hertz. He has a hotel. The hotel is called it's a historic hotel, 1930s when it was built. And it's just a few steps away from the ocean. And he has it, and what he's done with that hotel is for years and years, it has been long-term housing for residents, for the working class of Tybee. You know, a person can go there and they can pay $400 or $500 a month, be able to stay and live. You know, and it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. He's gotten other things going on in his life, and that hotel is going to be sold. And once that hotel gets sold, we're pretty sure it's going to go the way of most of the island, and you're going to need
find stuff or some other kind of.
Yes, and poor people have nowhere to go. Poor people don't think that there's poor people on Tybee, but there's poor people on Tybee. I'm one of them. There's poor people that live on Tybee, but it's very, very hard to maintain and stay because it's difficult. It's just difficult because everything is geared towards tourism.
Yeah.
It's a tourist area. That's what it is. So what we're trying to do with what we're doing is we're going to honor people who try to live their life like Dr. King for community, for the beloved community. And that's what we're trying to do. And so we want everybody to come out to stand up and say that the Tybee is definitely Savannah Beach, and we can enjoy Savannah Beach, enjoy Dr. King as an extension of the celebrations that we have in Savannah. And this year, let me say, for the first time this year, Richmond Hill, which is in Bryan County, I believe, Richmond Hill.
It is Bryan
County. Richmond Hill, for the first time, is having its own Dr. King celebration. January the 19th, they're having their very first Dr. King parade. And they got some counseling and resources from us because we're a small little place, and they wanted to have their first celebration. So we've been in contact, and they're going to have their very first one on the 19th of January. So all around us, we need that now. We've got number 45 in the White House. I think we really feel like we need to remember and not lose the gains that we've already got.
I'm telling you, because, and just like you say, it's that's a lot of valuable information that she just shared with us about what's happening and what's happening on the island. Valuable information, and so we need to, you all need to get involved and go to the event. Let me ask you one other thing, because it might be too late now, right, for people to enter in the parade and stuff like that.
It is not, because it's a small island. Remember, we're only going 10 blocks. Come on out. You can put your car in the parade. You can give me a call. Can I give you my telephone number? Tell them to call me. You please call Julia Pearce.
Yeah, give all that to them now.
Okay, you call Julia Pearce and call me at 912-414-0809. Julia Pearce, 912-414-0809. Come on out. It's not too late to put your car in the parade. It's going to be January the 12th, which is a Saturday, and it starts at 2 o'clock. Please try to be there on 14th Street. Come to 14th Street parking lot. Come be there by 1 or 1:30. Put your car in the parade and come to the Human Rights Program, and it'll be wonderful. Be wonderful.
Where's the activities after the parade? You said, well, Miss Dr. Levette and...
Right. After, what we'll do is, if you're in the parade ends at the YMCA complex there on Tybee, which is right there on 6th Street. It comes right there. When the parade ends, we end right there at the Y. It's the Old School Cafeteria, and that's where we'll have the program. Everybody will be received right in there. And also, if you're in a business, we'll have commemorative bulletin. If you would like, if you get to us between now and the 8th of this month, the 8th of January, but we have to go to press on the 9th so that we'll have it by the 12th. But if you would like to have your business in our commemorative program, please contact with that same number, 912-414-0809, and you can have your business represented in the program, and we can talk to you about our rates for that. But the parade is free. There's no cost at all to be in the parade. So please come out and enjoy.
Very good. That sounds super. And definitely so. I might try to even get involved in this thing myself.
That'd be wonderful. Wonderful.
A lot of valuable information. So again, I'm delighted to have you on as my guest, and very soon have to have you back on because you got a wealth of valuable information in that head there, and I like that. So very soon we'll be doing that.
Well, I appreciate, once again, thank you. I appreciate letting me come out and talk about it.
Okay. The viewing audience, you heard what she just said. She supplied us with a lot of valuable information. So please, again, call that number. And that is, again, and then we'll go off.
912-414-0809, and that's Tybee MLK. I'm Julia Pearce, and January the 12th is our celebration. Please come out to Tybee, because Tybee is Savannah Beach.
All right. So, viewing audience, you have been watching the Dunham Report, where you, the community, come first, keeping a focus on the future. So, subscribe to our channel. Like us on Facebook. Well, follow us on Instagram. See you next week. Good night.